It's Lee's turn to pick a differential, so I'll talk to him in a sec about that, who his key differential is. But we've had so many questions really from the community about this, and it fits in. We're running out of time. We're running out of game weeks. And if you've got a team which is full of, like Rashford, who I'm thinking of getting in, KDB, Salah, high owned players, really high owned players against engaged managers, you're not really you're gonna perhaps go up the rankings, but you're not really gonna rocket up the rankings. But you do need to have those differentials. You do need to have those low owned players. So this week we saw it with Antonio owners. We saw it with St Maximum owners. We saw it with those who captained Aubameyang as well. Massive rank swings there by just going a little bit different. I'm not saying go different as in crazy, but going different as in look at the stats, look at the fixture, look who is low owned, surprisingly low owned. And find out who they are and bring them in if you're in the market for moving up the rankings, which I'm presuming most people are, unless they're number one. So we've had some questions. Dunas Dog, who are the best differentials to bring into the team if chasing in a mini league? Also for rank. Midfield template, asks Redo. Fernandez, Salah, and KDB look great for points, but they're so well owned. Could a focus on having great defenders who are differentials in a 4 or even 5 at the back be a good differential tactic? So using the structure as a differential. Jammy Sprat, making headway requires differentials, but which well-owned high-ceiling players do we dump? Now, I've seen a few teams without Salah, without KDB. They've taken that bold move as well. Which ones can we do without? Scuba Smithy, can the Power 5 be a differential in itself? And this is something that I know that world former number one Simon March, one of our pro pundits, has spoken about at the time. You get so many well-owned players in, it becomes a differential in itself. And I kind of thinking that with Manchester United, for example, so well owned, but only one isn't enough. You've got to own more in order to make headway. So he mentions Martial, Pulisic, and Mahrez. Mahrez 9.9% ownership as of Tuesday. Wow. So I'm going to put a picture up here as I'm talking about this. So you've got KDB in the middle, and then David Silva and Mahrez. So you're going to probably need KDB, but you're going to mix it up a bit with Man City's fixtures. And Mahrez, 1 in 10 owners own him. He looks ripe for investment. Axe 16, that's his name, by the way. I feel strikers are getting less and less important, and he's another one who's talking about using structure differently. 4-4-2, as Andy was talking about these, so we're going 2 up front. 5-4-1 even as well. So I'm going to go to you, Lee, first, because firstly I'm going to ask you, you're tasked with picking a differential under 5% ownership and for the next 4. But also there's all those questions to consider as well. So go with your differential at the moment, next 4. Who was it?
Yeah, so I kind of I do like the comment that Axe 16 made there in terms of using formation as a differential. I think we've seen. I've got no stats to back this up, but certainly I've watched a lot of football in the last few weeks, and it feels like there's less goals. I mean, I don't know whether the players are getting a bit more match fitness now, and maybe we'll start to see more games like West Ham and Chelsea last night. But certainly, to begin with, we saw not a lot of goals. So using that maybe 5 at the back strategy, I do like that potentially as a strategy. In terms of differentials, I think if you were going to ask me for one for this week, I would probably refer back to the game I watched last night, Newcastle Bournemouth, and say, well, I really like what Steve Bruce is doing there. I like the fact that he's trying new things towards the end of the season because frankly, Newcastle are kind of in that mid-table bracket where I don't know how they're motivated, really. They're not going to obviously go down. They're not going to probably get in Europe. So, why not try a few things out? And he actually tried Gale, or he's tried a couple of times now, Gale up there with Joe Linton. I think Joe Linton has really benefited from having Gale buzzing around him with St Maximin's creativity as well and the kind of solidity of John Joe Shelby. So I think if I was looking for a differential this week, I'm maybe looking to Newcastle, who are at home to it's West Ham, isn't it? West Ham. And in particular, Sam has Alan St. Maximan in her team, got the 15 or so pointer from last night, so she's very happy. So I like the look of him. However, you have asked me for a differential over the next few weeks. And for that, I'm going to go to Man City. We've mentioned before, previously on the Scoutcast here, the fixtures for Manchester United and Manchester City. Both sides of Manchester look fantastic, and City's look absolutely brilliant. They've got obviously the Liverpool game, which we know is coming up tonight. But then after that, Southampton away, Newcastle at home, Brighton, Bournemouth, Watford, Norwich. I mean, they've all set for a strong run-in for the season. And in the same way that Steve Bruce's approach at Newcastle is to maybe try some new things out. I've got a feeling Pep is already actually starting to try some things out and will continue to do that between now and the end of the season. So Phil Foden, who comes in at only 1.5% team selected by, I think if you can swallow the fact and just accept that, he's not going to get 90 minutes every game, probably, we don't know. But you've got to feel that Pep is going to, obviously now the league's gone, he's going to try and give Foden and some of the more periphery players a bit of time. Foden in particular, because I think he's going to be an important player for him next year, with obviously David Silva not being around. So 5.2 million with those fixtures coming up, even if he sees limited game time or maybe even 60, 70 minutes a game, we've already seen that Foden's come back from the break, fit, firing, got the 16-pointer against Burnley at the Etihad in game week 30, of course. So looks raring to go, looks as if he's ready to take that opportunity. So yeah, 1.5% team selected by. So Phil Foden is going to be my pick.
Well, I can't argue with that. I've got him in my list as well. I've mentioned in the Sky game as well. It looks great, especially that final day. We're gonna, get some team news before maybe. Foden, it just seems, he's the future really. So it seems likely he'll play. I mean, I think that's a really good bet as well. An interesting thing about Foden, why he's so good as a differential, because his ownership, whatever his ownership is amongst engaged managers, he's benched a lot as well. So you're going to get a lot of people who even own him and are going to bench him. So his actual effective ownership of actual playing is actually going to be even lower than really low. So he's an ultra differential, but we've seen he's got the quality now. And he's been groomed for next year. He's the future, and he's stepping up to the mark. Great shout. I really like that.
It'd be very interesting to see whether Pep uses him tonight, actually, because he obviously used him in 30 against Burnley to great effect, and then didn't get any minutes against Chelsea. So against the top teams, is he maybe going to play him against Liverpool tonight? Let's see. But then obviously after Liverpool, they ain't got to play many top teams, with all due respect to those teams. So I can foresee Foden getting a few points after the Liverpool game.
Yeah, so some of those other issues that the community are asking about differentials as well. What do you think about, not just in terms of using your structure as a differential itself as well, but things like who do you get rid of? Who do you get rid of? And which other differentials are you looking at?
Well, I think from my perspective, who do you get rid of? That's a difficult one, isn't it? I think there are some brave managers out there already who have got rid of some of their Liverpool players, like Salah and Mane. Obviously had a few transfers out in the last few weeks, and you can see why. I think you can see why, because the league's done. But again, if you look at the not just the mentality that Klopp brings to that team, but also the fact that both of those guys are going to be after the individual accolade, potentially of Golden Boot. They would not have liked sharing it last season with each other, even less so with Aubameyang as well. I think it's probably safer to keep those guys. I think I certainly am going to stay with Salah rather than sell. But I can understand why people are getting rid of those guys. But I don't see a lot of transfers out for Kevin De Bruyne. So to answer your question about who to get rid of, that's a very difficult one. Andy, what do you think about this? I'm going to defer to you in terms of your team. Who are you thinking about getting rid of?
Calvert-Lewin and Hayden. I've got money to burn, so Hayden. It's hard to say. Like, out of the well-owned players, I'm actually not looking at getting rid of any of them. I don't think. Like, the problem with Liverpool is they have 3 very good fixtures in the next 3 games. So, as I've said before, like this week is a large part of FPL is getting ahead of the curve. I'm just not sure I'm willing to take that risk on Liverpool players who, Salah did an interview with Carragher that I was chatting about last night.
Oh, yeah.
And he got asked, which would you prefer, the Golden Boot or the points? And he said, I need to go for the team one, which is the Golden Boot. And he made a joke out of it. And obviously it's just a joke, but that's on the back of his mind. I know, people will say, look, they always want to score goals, but we've seen plenty of times before where this comes into effect. They try and get that player the ball and stuff like that. So I'm not prepared yet to get rid of Trent or Salah, to be honest. In terms of differentials, I'm kind of looking the same way. I've actually got Foden on my list, and he's going to be potentially part of my transfer plans this week, which again I'll talk about later. Okay. Man City are really where I'm looking, and top 10k percentage, even though I'm really far away from that, I think it does give you a good idea of active managers. So Jesus, 1.6% owned in the top 10k. Foden, 0.24. Mahrez is 6.68, which is crazy. So I'm looking, again, at least one more Man City player in, maybe 2, because I just think outside of Liverpool and Man United, with the fixtures that are remaining, looking at the teams and the fixtures that are remaining, they're probably the ones that are going to score the most goals, unless they really go off the boil because there's nothing much to play for. But I'm not convinced that's going to happen because they need to keep kind of match rhythm for cups and stuff. And I think the point that I think Joe made about Simon, about having the power five, I think differentials are really important, but I think people worry about the percentage they have to be at. Like Danny Ings is owned by 21% in the top 10k, which sounds like a lot, but only 1 in every 5 managers has him. To me, that's still a differential. And when I put in, like, if I get Mahrez in this week, I'll have Mahrez, De Bruyne, Salah, Fernandes, and Martial. And obviously, this will change for next week because people will be able to make transfers. But right now, for Game Week 32 in the top 10k, that combination is owned by eight out of 10,000 managers. So my midfield as a whole, yes, they're owned quite highly overall, but together, they're not actually that highly owned at all. So if they all happen to go off in 1 week, I'd still be seeing a big green arrow, even though if I show people my team, they call it template. So I'm not looking at going like kind of differential for the sake of it, and I quite like the ones that have been mentioned here. But Man City, Greenwood, 1.1%. There's some really good options in top teams. I think Chelsea are probably the other one that I would look at. Like Pulisic again, only owned by 11% in the top 10k. So yeah, loads of options. I'm not sure about changing to a 4 or 5 at the back, mostly because I don't know if I'd want to stick to it for the rest of the season. It's a lot of transfers to restructure and a lot of transfers to get back. But I'm definitely looking at 5 in midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the talk of differentials is to look at it in moderation. If you have a complete team of differentials, you're either going to end up being number 1 or you're going to end up being like 7 million. But if you balance it around with those swords and those shield picks, so you can't. So Jimenez this week he blanked, but his effective ownership was 100 and something ridiculous, 120%, and which is it's too much. It's too much. So basically, if he goes off, even if you've got him and you're not captaining him, you're going to have a rank drop. And I've experienced that before this season with players that I don't own, but their effective ownership is very big. So what I think you should do is look at being fluid. So this is why I'm not keen on a 4, 5 at the back or a 4 at the back. I'm keen on possibly going 4 at the back, but having the option of going 3 up front as well. We're still at the beginning of the season, really, and the differentials are emerging. And like everything, the key to unlocking success in FPL is spotting the players that are about to go off on a big points haul and getting them in before. Because if you wait a couple more weeks, they're going to be template again. And that's the key. So you're getting in the likes of Pulisic, Foden perhaps, Mahrez. These are the players that people should be thinking about getting in now. Elsewhere, Man City, hugely strong fixtures. You mentioned Foden there. We've got Mahrez in the picture. I think they're absolutely great options. Jesus, I'm not sure about. It's early days. Let's see. But owning KDB alone, I just think is not enough. Owning Fernandes for Manchester United, for me, it's not enough. In the past, owning Suarez at Liverpool, but not Sturridge, or not owning some of their defenders, not enough.
Yeah.
You need to own more. You need to own more because there you can get your differential. You're getting the double ups. People still don't go for the double ups. Danny Ings towards the end of the season, great. Mix him up perhaps with Ward-Prowse as well on Armstrong, and you're not only getting a march on those that don't own Danny Ings. You're getting a march on people who own Danny Ings because they won't have the guy who's assisting him, or perhaps is being assisted by him. You're not getting that match up there. So look at those. Traore and Jimenez is a great example now. I think I really like Wolves' defence a bit better, but Traore and Jimenez is the Fraser of Wilson, for people remember it last season. You're getting that double up and you're differentiating. So on my current goal, you mentioned goals imminent table, really good week this week. Antonio was top. And we had Aubameyang there as well. And who else was it? Antonio, Aubameyang, Dwight Gale was in it. So we predicted Dwight Gale's goal. And so on. And Richarlison as well. So it did really well this week in terms of that. So currently, Antonio is still there. There's more to come for Antonio. I think Antonio's absolutely my top. So I mentioned him in the differentials last week. Sort of like half like kidding myself, thinking, hey, how about Antonio? And I was thinking, no one's going to really listen to me. But I actually wish someone had listened to me because he did really well.
He was great, wasn't he?
And I think he's still going to be good. He's still there at the current goals imminent table, which means that he is, he's still due. Calvert-Lewin is there. The interesting with Calvert-Lewin is he's getting the quantity of shots. The quality is poor, though. The expected goals isn't as high, and also their big chances isn't very high. So what we need is he's getting in the right places, but he's just not getting that quality there. So that's what I'm looking out for. This is why I'm thinking of perhaps benching Calvert-Lewin, or at least keeping him for a while, because I'm not sure. But anyway, he'll become Danny Ings if he doesn't shape up soon. Yep.
Could you really quickly, because I've actually looked at Liverpool as well, which I don't think have been forgotten about, but I don't think necessarily everyone.
Not Andy. We're champions. I don't know if I told you.
I think you did. Yeah. I don't know if everyone's tripling up right now, but I looked at them. Obviously, Uber differential. If you expect to see some rotation, Origi 0.03%, but probably more interesting. Like I've seen a lot of teams now that have just got Trent, but Liverpool play Villa, Brighton, and Burnley. I think it is in the next 3. So maybe going to double up in defence. Like the combination of Trent and Van Dijk in the top 10k is 6.7%. I'm sure it hasn't been that low all season.
Yeah.
And the combination of Trent and Robertson is only 3.59%. So getting in another, if you've got a luxury transfer, you've already got the Man United, Liverpool, Man City players you want, apart from the defence, you could double up. Obviously, there is a chance of rotation, but Van Dijk, I would probably say, is the least likely. Could still get rotated. I'm not saying he definitely won't. Adding him to Trent could be a way to maybe assure a clean sheet, potentially even get 2.
Another great differential double up. And look at the fixtures. Man City, Liverpool, Manchester United, Wolves. They've all got good fixtures. Southampton towards the end, Everton towards the end. Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, if Calvert-Lewin can have some creativity there, that could be a great double up. Armstrong and Ings is another uber differential move that could work out. Here's some other ones. Top 10k ownership. Pulisic mentioned 11% owned. Get him in. He looks great. I'm pleased he's in my team. Top 10k ownership. Kane 10% compared to Son's 48%. Son's playing out on the wing. Kane's playing up top. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But if it's working out in the way that Kane gets all the points and Son doesn't, Kane's 10% ownership in the top 10k compared to Son's 48%. That's going to be a huge rank swing in your favour if you go for Kane. Foden, 5% in the top 10k, but his effective ownership is often around 1% because everyone's benching him. Jesus, less than 2% ownership. And very outside bet, top 10k ownership. Maupay at Brighton playing Norwich next as a one-off punt if you're looking for a free hit. Less than 1% ownership, and Antonio as well, less than 1% ownership. I think there's really good options there. But for me, I'm going to stick with my last week's one, Antonio, and say he's the best one at the moment because West Ham have the fixtures. He's got the form. He's really good, but I really like all of the options both of you have mentioned. There's loads of choice.
Did you see Antonio's interview after the match last night?
Great.
It was great, yeah.
What a great guy. I mean, it's just such a humble guy. He's absolutely sweating buckets. He put in such a shift. He was easily man of the match last night. He was sensational.
It's always remarkable when you hear a really articulate footballer. And that's not to say our footballers aren't articulate, but there's a lot of media training going on. And, if the gaffer picks me kind of stuff, that Alan Shearer sort of, I hope I score kind of thing. But when you actually get an articulate one like that, who's talking from the heart perfectly well and coming across as really engaging, amazing, isn't it? It's wonderful to see.
Quite dismissive of VAR as well, if I remember rightly, which was kind of amusing.
Yeah, that was good. It was his head, wasn't it? It was his forehead or something was just over the line.
Was in Kepa's eye line or something, let's not go there.
That's crazy. Hopefully we've given lots of people advice about differentials, really. It's not just about picking low ownership, it's about those double ups and looking at structure and things like that as well. And there's lots of differentials out there. Andy, who are the best teams for clean sheets over the next